Welcome to the Dibley Diaries for this week. This week we're going to be thinking about the Transfiguration and how Jesus is changed and how he becomes dazzling white and how he reflects God's glory in that change. And I've been thinking about our church communities and wondering what the perception of our church community is from the people who live in our communities but are not members of our church community. Obviously, in every church community there are going to be people who are sad, whose lives are difficult, who have a long-term difficulty or a short-term grief, which is hard for them, and that's good, because that's what being a church community is about supporting people in all aspects of their life. But I like to think that church communities can be a bit more like the community of the animals in the Winnie the Pooh stories, where basically people comment that it looks like Eeyore is really depressed, but the community welcomes him and encourages him and includes him in the things that they're doing, but the whole community is not defined by Eeyore's difficulties. If, as a church community, we are only viewed as places which are defined by our sadness, our grief, our troubles and our difficulties, they won't be attractive places where people will want to join in. People who have nothing to do with the church community won't think, well, that would be a good place for me to go and to join in with whatever they're doing. So that's a good challenge for this week, for each of us, wherever we are, to ask someone we know in our community how our church is perceived, how our church community is perceived. If it is only defined by a sense of sadness or sorrow or trouble, then it would be a good thing for us to think about how actually we might be able to reflect our faith in a different way. Our Gospel reading for the week this week is the Transfiguration from Luke chapter 9, and it's the story where Peter, James and John go up with Jesus to the mountain, and Jesus prays and Moses and Elijah appear to him, and as Jesus prays, he's transformed. It's described that his clothes shine brilliant white, his face is changed. Moses and Elijah talk to him about what's going to come in Jerusalem and the things which Jesus is going to do there. So Jesus is bright and shiny, and the disciples are kind of keen to see what's happening on. They're astounded by what's happening. We have as our Old Testament reading set for today the story of Moses coming down with the tablets, and then Moses is so bright and shiny, his face is so bright and shiny that he has to kind of wear a veil to shield other people from the brightness of it. It will be no surprise, having reflected on these two passages this week, that I've spent some week with the earworm Shiny Happy People in my mind. For those of you who don't remember it, it was an REM song from 1991. You can look it up on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description. Shiny Happy People. So Jesus and Moses were shining. They were reflecting God's glory. In the late 1980s, I was part of a church which had been planted into another church to make this new church. And one of my friends in the new church said to me, I came and the place was just full of these shiny, happy people. And we taught in the Rural Challenge that obviously not everybody in a church community is going to be happy all the time. But are they going to be shiny? Are they going to be able to reflect God's glory? Some people might not feel that they can do that. In fact, for some people, coming along and joining in worship with the church community is victory in itself. But what does it mean for us to be able to reflect God's glory, or to shine with God's glory? Should that be our aspiration? How could we possibly achieve that if that is our aspiration? And I've been thinking about that this week, and it seems to me that we might think about it in two different ways. One of the ways is that actually shining with God's love is God's gift. It's a gift from God, not something that we can earn. If it is a gift from God, then we should ask Him for it. We should put it on the equivalent of our from God Christmas and birthday list. Dear God, I would like to shine with your glory. I would like our church community to shine with your glory. In some ways, that would be God's gift to us. How would that work? How would that seem for us? Well, we would pray and we would work out how that could work. The other way of thinking about it is that actually what Jesus and Moses, what's happening to them is that they are carrying some sort of long-term reflection of being in God's presence. That they carry with them a long-term reflection, not a shadow of being in God's presence. And so if we're going to do that, then we need to spend time with God. We need to be in that place with God, in a bright and shiny place. If you think about all the descriptions of heaven in Revelation, they're all bright and shiny things. So how do we, as individuals and church communities, spend time with God so that we can then have this long-term reflection of His brightness and His glory so that others can see it? The Dibley moment of the week this week is a moment of me being thankful for some people, and it's not about shiny and bright, it is in fact about tents. If you look at Luke 9, you'll see that Peter offers to build tents for Moses and Jesus and Elijah. Not as mad as it seems, because all Peter's understanding of these mountaintop encounters is that they're going to be a long time. So that's why he offered to build them tents. So some time ago now, I was at a Christian festival. I was going to be managing the food tent for our 25 people, and we had a group of extremely competent teenagers with us who started off by putting up the mess tent. So it was a big frame tent. It needed the frame putting up in a difficult way. It's had to all be put together. It was then lifted to half height. The canvas goes across. They lift it up. They put it up really very quickly. Then whilst I was then sorting out all the supplies and provisions for the cooking I was going to be doing in the week, these group of 5, maybe 6 really competent teenagers then put up their own tent. They put up my tent. They went and helped everyone else put their tents up, and I miss them. The great tent erecting group. They were extremely competent young people. They've turned into extremely competent adults. Maybe one day you might come across one where they are working now, but I am forever grateful for that little group of teenagers and their tent erecting ability. Well, that's all from the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week where you can reflect something of heaven in your church communities and your communities this week.